Welcome, my dear students. Here is a new episode of Life Science. Today we will talk about reptiles. You might know some of these reptiles like snakes and turtles and tortoises, even lizards. So let's talk more in detail about reptiles. How are reptiles different from amphibians? Amphibians need to spend a part of their lives in or near the water, but most reptiles can spend most of their lives on land. These are some of the most common known reptiles, like lizards, like tortoises, also like snakes and crocodiles. About 35 million years after amphibians moved onto land, some of them began to change. They grew thick, dry skin that reduced the water loss. So, reptiles, they grew the thick, dry skin that reduced water loss. Their legs changed and grew stronger than the legs of amphibians, so they could walk easily. They also laid down eggs that did not dry out on dry land, so these eggs must be different from the eggs of amphibians. Okay, we'll see. They had become reptiles, the first animals to live out of the water. Many reptiles are now extinct. Dinosaurs that lived on land are the most well known prehistoric reptiles. Yes, dinosaurs were reptiles, but there were many other ancient reptiles. Some could swim, others could fly, and many were similar to reptiles that are alive today. Characteristics of reptiles. Today we will talk, or now we will talk about the characteristics of reptiles. Reptiles are well adapted for life on land. For example, all reptiles, even reptiles that live in the water, have lungs and breathe air. Reptiles also have thick skin, use their surroundings to control their temperature, so they are ectotherms, and they have a special kind of egg that is laid on land. What about the thick skin of all reptiles? Thick, dry skin is a very important adaptation for life on land. Why? This skin forms a watertight layer that keeps cells from losing the water by evaporation. So, having thick skin, it forms a watertight layer. This is like a barrier between the body, the inner cells, and the outside of the body. This skin forms a watertight layer that keeps the cells from losing the water by evaporation. Unlike amphibians, most reptiles cannot breathe through their skin. Yes, most reptiles cannot breathe through their skin. Most reptiles, such as snakes, depends only on their lungs for oxygen. Most reptiles, such as snakes, they depend only on their lungs for oxygen. What about the body temperature? As we mentioned before, nearly all reptiles are ectotherms. Reptiles cannot keep their bodies at a stable temperature. They are active when it is warm outside and slow down when it is cool. A few reptiles can get some heat from their own body cells, but most reptiles live in mild climates. They cannot handle the cold polar regions where mammals and birds can thrive. Yes, and we will study that when we get to birds and mammals. So these are the amazing amniotic eggs. So do you remember the eggs of amphibians that do not have a shell, as you can see? But here are the reptile eggs. The reptile eggs are called amniotic eggs and they have shells. Okay, amniotic egg is a type of egg that is surrounded by a membrane which is named the amnion. Found in reptiles, birds, and egg-laying mammals. Yes, some mammals lay eggs that are amniotic eggs, have a shell or a membrane. Contains a large number or a large amount of yolk. This is the stored food, yolk, also surrounded by a shell. The most important adaptation to life on land is the amniotic egg. Why? Again, an amniotic egg is an egg that holds fluid that protects the embryo. Reptiles, birds, and mammals have amniotic eggs. The reptile's amniotic egg have a shell. The amniotic eggs of birds and egg-laying mammals also have a shell. The shell protects the embryo and keeps the egg from drying out. Yes, to keep the fluids inside the egg. A reptile's amniotic egg can be laid under rocks, in ground, or even in the desert. So this is well protected egg. So what about the parts of the amniotic egg? Let's see. The shell is just one important part of the amniotic egg of a reptile, bird, or even an egg-laying mammal. Together, these parts protect the embryo from predators, infections, and also the water loss. And here are the parts of the amniotic egg. As you can see, from the outer layer to the inner part, from outside to inside. So let's start by the shell, the outermost covering. The shell protects the egg from damage and keeps the egg from drying out. The shell has small pores that allow oxygen to pass through to the growing embryo and allow carbon dioxide to get out of the shell or to be removed. The second layer, this is the albumin, 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 albumin. All this is the albumin. Albumin provides water and protein for the embryo. Then we come to the third part. This is allantois, 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 allantois. This one with these that look like blood vessels, but not the yellow one. This is the gray one. This is allantois. What about allantois? Allantois stores the embryo's wastes. It also passes oxygen to the embryo from the pores in the shell. So it stores the embryo's waste. This is the allantois, stores the embryo's waste and pass oxygen to the embryo from the pores of the shell. Then we move to the third one. This is yolk, the yellow part of the egg. This is the yolk. Yolk gives the embryo a rich supply of food. Yolk gives the embryo a rich supply of food. Then we come to the last part. This is the amniotic sac. Amniotic sac. The amniotic sac is filled with fluid. The fluid surrounds and protects the embryo. Okay. Then what about reproduction? Reptiles usually reproduce by internal fertilization. After the egg is fertilized inside the female, a shell forms around the egg. Then the female lays the egg. Most reptiles lay their eggs in soil or sand. Then, but a few reptiles do not lay their eggs. So what they do? Instead, the embryos develop inside the mother and the young are born alive. In either case, the embryo develops into a tiny young reptile that looks like a small adult. So reptiles do not go through metamorphosis. What about the types of reptiles? The age of dinosaurs lasted from 300 million years ago until about 65 million years ago. During this time, most land vertebrates were reptiles, but today about 8,000 species of living reptiles are known to exist. This number is much smaller than the number of reptile species that lived in the past, yes, for sure. Reptiles that still live today belong to four groups. Number one, turtles and tortoises, and we will know the difference between them. Number two, crocodiles and alligators. Yes, yet we will know the difference between them. Then number three, lizards and snakes. Number four, tuataras. Tuataras. So let's move on. So turtles and tortoises. As you can see, turtles are the one that live in water. Tortoises live on land, but both of them they breathe by lungs. So let's start. Turtles and tortoises are distantly related to other living reptiles. Generally, tortoises live on land, but turtles spend all or much of their lives in the water. However, even sea turtles come on land to lay their eggs. The trait that makes turtles and tortoises so unique is their shell. As you can see, the shell makes them slow and flexible, so outrunning predators is unlikely. But many turtles can draw their head and limbs into the armor-like shell to protect themselves, to compensate being slow and inflexible, but they can hide in this shell. Crocodiles and alligators spend most of their time in the water. Their eyes and nostrils are on the top of their flat head for both of them, crocodiles and alligators, so they can watch their surroundings while most of their body is hidden in the water. Hiding is the way that gives them a great advantage over their prey, that they can hide very well. So crocodiles and alligators are meat eaters. They are predators. They are carnivores. They eat invertebrates, fish, turtles, birds, and even mammals. So what is the difference between crocodiles and alligators? As you can see from the picture, to your left hand side, this is a crocodile. To your right hand side, this is an alligator. So crocodiles have a narrow head with a pointed snout. It looks like the tip of a triangle. So this is a pointed snout and a narrow head, but the alligators have a broad head with rounded mouth. In crocodiles, the mouth is pointed, but in alligators, the mouth is round. Then let's move to snakes and lizards. Today, the most common reptiles are snakes and lizards, as you can see. Snakes are carnivores. They have special organs in the mouth that help them smell the prey. How come? Let's see. When a snake flakes its tongue out, tiny molecules in the air stick to its tongue. Then the snake touches its tongue to the organs in its mouth. The molecules on the tongue tell the snake what prey is nearby. So the snake uses its tongue in order to smell the prey. When it flicks its tongue in the air, tiny molecules stick to its tongue. Then it puts the tongue inside the mouth in an organ which tells the snake what prey is nearby. Some snakes kill their prey by squeezing it until it suffocates. So this is a squeezing mechanism to make the prey suffocate. Other snakes have fangs for injecting venom. So some of them squeeze the prey, others inject venom by fangs. But no matter how snakes kill their prey, they eat it in the same way. They can open their mouth very wide, then the snake eat animals and eggs by swallowing them whole at once. Okay, these are snakes and these are the lizards. Then we move to another lizard. Most lizards eat small insects and worms, but some lizards eat plants. One giant lizard, which is the Komodo dragon, the one that you can see, this is an actual image. This is its actual size. It eats deer, pigs, and goats. So most lizards eat small insects, worms, some eat plants. But one giant lizard, which is the Komodo dragon, eats deer, pigs, and goats. Lizards have a loosely connected lower jaw. Lizards have a loosely connected lower jaw, but they do not swallow large prey whole, not like snakes. Lizards do have other eye-catching abilities also. For example, many lizards can break their tails off. It can break its tail, separate its tail from the body to escape predators, then grow a new tail. Can you imagine this? Then the uncommon kind of reptiles. This is the Totaras. Totaras only live on a few islands of the coast of New Zealand. This is Totaras. They live in on a few islands of the coast of New Zealand. Totaras look similar to lizards and can grow to about 60 centimeter long. 60 centimeter long. This is not huge, okay? So, although Totaras look like lizards, the two reptiles are classified in different groups. Lizards are grouped with snakes, but Totaras in a different group. Why? Unlike many lizards, Totaras do not have a visible ear openings on the outside of the body. Unlike many lizards, Totaras do not have visible ear openings on the outside of the body. Also, unlike many reptiles, Totaras are most active when the temperature is low. Do you remember when we said that? Most reptiles, they are active at day and rest during night. But during the day, Totaras rest and absorb sunlight. And at night, they search for food. I hope this session is understood. See you in the next one. Thank you guys and goodbye.